Imagine receiving the call of a lifetime on your birthday, just as you're setting your biggest dream into motion. For Dashaun Bryant, that call led to his first big stage at RoofCon. And in just a few short years, he went from dreaming about it to opening as a keynote speaker in 2024. It's a powerful testament to what relentless dedication can achieve. In today's episode, we're diving deep into the mindset and methods that transformed Dashaun into one of the industry's top performers. A journey from amateur to pro, filled with lessons on resilience, discipline, and executing on your goals with precision. Dashaun Bryant, known to many as the Roof Hustler, has worked with some of the most successful roofing teams across the country as a keynote speaker, mental performance coach, and trainer. Dashaun brings a unique approach to professional and personal growth that's hard to find in this industry. And what sets Dashaun apart isn't just his success, but his commitment to mastery. Even when it means staying away from home for days to serve homeowners in a storm-hit area, his approach is about more than just talent. It's about showing up, rain or shine, and putting in the work. Get ready to uncover actionable insights on what it takes to go from average to exceptional. Let's jump right in with the Roof Hustler himself. Welcome to the Roofing Success Podcast. I'm Jim Aline, and I'm here to bring you insights from top leaders in the roofing industry to help you grow and scale your roofing business. The Roof Hustler, Dashaun Bryant.
It's cracking, baby.
How are you, brother?
I'm phenomenal, man. I feel good to be back, man. This the one podcast that I prioritize every time it comes my way, because sometimes I done did people podcasts, and I'm like, depending on how they ask questions, people probably done heard everything that they want to ask me the way they ask questions. But anytime we rock out, man, I'm like, I always got to prioritize this podcast because every year I'm growing, every year I'm getting better. So the story continues to progress, and it ain't the same, 4 years ago when I was on my balcony dressed up in the bow tie talking about the 11 door-to-door roof commandments, man. So it's been a journey, and you like one of my brothers, man. So it's always a privilege and an honor and a pleasure to come on this podcast and continue to help the people grow and get better.
It is the number one podcast in roofing. I don't know if you knew that.
I didn't know that. It
is the number one podcast in roofing. There's a couple of YouTubers out there that we know that have some, they got a little, they do very well also.
Yep.
But as far as just podcasts, there's nothing that comes close. We rank in iTunes as high as top 50 sometimes.
Wow, that's amazing, man. So this is a phenomenal podcast that people need to be on if they get that opportunity.
It is, man, and really, it's a testament to the people who listen, right? Like it's a testament to the audience that has grown with us over the years, and I've heard from many people that after they've come on the podcast, the reception that they've gotten, people reaching out to them. The next event they went to, people were talking about the podcast. They've had opportunities open up for them because of being on the podcast. Someone heard them on the podcast and we're like, man, that person's smart. Let me bring them on stage at some different, events and things like that.
Well, exposure is everything, right?
Yeah, but it's the right exposure. You and I both come from the same place of give as much value as possible, right? And that's what we connected on many, many years ago, is that it is just to provide value to the community and without the expectation of anything financial on the other end of that.
1,000%.
And when we do that with the right intention, the right things happen, man. And I noticed one thing that happened with you recently was you were the keynote speaker at RoofCon. Congratulations.
Thank you. Man, that was dope. So the first RoofCon in 2020, I think I was turning 30, and they was like, what you want for your birthday? I was like, man, only thing I want for my birthday, I just want an opportunity to speak at a conference. Like, that's all I want. I was like, I just want that opportunity, right? And ironically, I got called the day of my birthday. this in 2020 by Diego and them. And it's like, hey man, we see your stuff everywhere. We love you. We just wonder, do you want to speak at RoofCon? And it happened literally on the day of my birthday. And I said, that's all I wanted, right? So, I cried because it's pretty profound, dog. I'm just like, man, what are the odds, right?
Yeah.
So then we come back in 2024 and it's maybe like August 11th, August 12th, and my birthday, August 10th. And I get a call from Diego and he's like, hey, Dashaun, man, sorry I missed your birthday. I'm like, nah, it's all good. He's like, listen, man, we wanted to know if you wanted to do the keynote at RoofCon. And I'm like, I would be honored, bro, because I'm one of those people I didn't feel entitled to be on stage. I never was like, man, they got all these other people on stage. I should be up on stage. I just always told myself when the opportunity comes, like I'm going to tear it up. Like I'm going to get up there and do my thing and make sure I leave my mark. And I was actually the opening keynote speaker on day one. So I had a nice crowd, first speaker, good anticipation because our breakout was right before the keynote. And man, got a great response. And one of my favorite things about the opportunity to speak at RoofCon was I did it my way. I didn't pay to play. I didn't have to, because, I know people that paid to be on stage. And I ain't mad at them, bro, because, hey, get the access, right? But we did it the organic way, the same way I've been building my brand, the same way I've been doing everything. I just stayed true to who I am, and it created that opportunity. And a lot of people showed a lot of love after the event. Day one, I pretty much, I think I was one of the most talked about speakers outside of like the big keynote speakers, like a Tom Bilyeu or something like that.
Yeah.
I was one of the most talked about speakers, man. So that was just, it was just fulfilling, man. It definitely made my heart smile, and it just also prompted me to continue to keep getting better.
Yeah, and that's one thing I've learned about you over the years, man, is you put in the work on the back end. You put in the work first. And like the sessions that you do for the Roofing and Solar Reform Alliance, I'm like, man, how is he even coming up with new material? Like you're coming up with new stuff all the time, but what you're doing is you're on a journey of learning, taking that and bringing it to the industry, right? Like it's you're the vessel for it, and it's when opportunity meets preparation.
That's all it is,
right?
Baby.
Like that. That's it, man. When opportunity meets preparation, but you have to be prepared when the opportunity presents itself.
Amen.
Which we've been talking lately, and man, really the industry isn't prepared.
They really
like,
not.
They're not prepared.
They really not.
So that's what we're going to talk about today. So keep listening because you're going to get some gems on this one. But I want to, like we were talking about, and there's a lot of hope out there.
Mm-hmm.
Right? A lot of businesses, a lot of sales reps, a lot of owners, a lot of sales reps that are operating on hope.
Yeah, one of my business partner Bruce, which Bruce,
Yep.
he called it smoking the hopium. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, instead of opiates, he called it opium, which is over the last 5 years, I've been traveling around the country coaching and training with companies as big as 30, 40 reps, companies as small as 3 to 2 reps, right? Companies anywhere between 5 million as big as 60 million, retail, insurance. So I've had the luxury of working with not just insurance restoration teams, but all types of roofing teams, just because the market is shifting, the industry is shifting to a place to where you have to be able to go out there and generate your own business. You have to be able to go out there and attack the marketplace. You have to be able to control your income on any given day, right? Like you can't just depend on these storms, but also you just can't depend on Angie leads, right? So, or whatever you're using to generate business.
Whatever. So
our industry is shifting in a way where insurance companies aren't buying the way they used to buy. I remember when State Farm was buying 2 Cree shingles, entire roofs, right? And the insurance industry is changing. So everybody in the industry keeps saying there's a change happening in our industry, but it's only from the insurance perspective, right? I haven't seen our industry changing with the insurance change. So I'm still working with companies that don't hold regular meetings. They don't got KPIs. They still don't train their people. They still don't have an in-home trainer, which is like asinine to me because it's like, you see how important training is. So it's like, why won't you designate a guy just to, properly train your people? We just did the event at RoofCon, and I'm just like, how many people in here still got this like figure it out mentality where you hire guys and you tell them this is going to be the easiest thing that you do and, give them a shirt and just tell them to go knock some doors. and like a third of the room raised their hand. And I'm just like, man, that's crazy. I'm 9 years into the game, and owners still haven't understood that, like, whoa, this industry is changing on the insurance side. So why don't we start actually preparing these guys for the change that's happening outside of just being good at dealing with the insurance companies, right? But our industry, I've noticed, they're just so obsessed with roofs, like roofs, roofs, roofs. I get it, it's the roofing industry, but we're actually in the people industry. We just sell roofs, right? So I've noticed, because everything rises and falls on leadership. I've noticed the owners don't have a hunger for learning, growing, evolving to be able to teach this to their sales teams, right? So it's like
Why?
that. I
Why?
just think they lazy. If I'm just being 100 with you, I just think it's lazy, right? It's easy to call me. It's easy to call John Cenac. It's easy to call you. It's easy to call the roof strategist, right? My boy Adam Bisman. It's easy to call us and press the easy button and get it done. But what these guys fail to realize is, like, the purpose of learning anything is to master it, right? Once you master it, now you can teach it. Because Einstein said, if you can't simplify it, you don't know it well enough. So our industry is still behind on training. They still don't got KPIs. Like, one thing I wish that would happen to our industry, I wish it got more corporate. I love the idea of private equities buying companies out. First, I was like, man, private equities coming in and just buying up these companies, da 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 da. And then as I've been learning more about private equity, I'm like, these people want to make money. They're going to implement training. It's going to be a priority. You're going to have to go to events. You're going to have to show up to meetings. You're going to have to do one-on-ones. There will be standards. We will eliminate favoritism, right? We will eliminate all of this just wing it mentality. You know how many branches, you know how many companies start branches with no systems? They just, like, storm hit, put a sign down, we got another office.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, office one should run identical to office two, right? It's like McDonald's. So our industry, the insurance side is changing, but the actual roofing industry is, I honestly feel like, is more stagnant than ever. One of the biggest changes I've seen in the roofing industry is the younger guys coming in, and the younger guys kind of got this mentality of, like, we got to train, we got to grow, we got to get better, we got to create a camaraderie, like, we got to create teams instead of building families. And that's what the roofing companies teams messing up as well. They're like, we're a family. And I'm like, no, you don't want to build a family. And they say, why not? I say, because you deal with more BS from family than you do from a team, right?
Let me chime in on that one real quick. I read an article recently. Netflix? I think it was Netflix. Netflix has the Netflix CEO in 2009 released what they referred to as a culture memo, and it was the details of what the culture was for their company. It was 152 slides.
Wow.
Right? It was a very in-depth, like, explanation of their culture and what they were creating and where they were going, and very, very in-depth. Last year, or it might have been this year, they revised the culture memo. And that was one of the highlights of it. Was they talked about, we are building a dream team. It's like, I hear this a lot. Working here is like family. Working at our company, man, you're like family. You ever had that family member that you don't really like hanging out with too much at Thanksgiving?
Mm-hmm.
You ever have that family member that just they don't chip in on the event?
They the paper plate man,
right? Like they're not chipping in. They're not bringing anything to the family dinner. That's family.
They just eat and leave.
You allow them. You allow those people to come to the dinner table anyway.
Mm-hmm. When they shouldn't be there. Now, when we're building a dream team, the shift in mindset was, let's build a dream team, not a family. Mm-hmm. And that's what I've been getting on these companies about it, but he like family to me. I say, whoop, that's the first problem.
That's right.
That's the first problem. What do you mean? I say, because it be times that you can't just excommunicate family. Like you just can't do that. But you can fire a teammate. You could trade a teammate. You could lower pay to a teammate. Whatever you got to do, right? You cannot renew a contract with a teammate, and it's just business. And it's like you just don't contribute to the team. You don't bring value at the level that you should. But all of these guys get caught up, fixated on this. We building a family environment, and once you build this family environment, it's a slippery slope.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Sorry, my camera's a little off. There we go. That's the thing. And then what else it comes down to is you might hear the term A players, right? Like from an HR perspective, when you're hiring and training people, like, oh, I got some A players on my team. The A players, the lower performing players drag those people down. They make them not want to work there. Right? There's a lot of the resistance. If you are Kobe Bryant or LeBron James or Michael Jordan, you want to play on a winning team.
Winning team. Did you see that study where they said they did two study groups? They put average performers around top performers, and their performance increased by 30%, or increased by 15%. Let's say they increased by 15%. And they put 15, top performers around average performers, and they dropped 30%.
Yeah,
30%, and I'm like, that is nuts. So that's why it's important to like build a dream team at that, but also it's even more important to vet the team members, eliminate team members, cut fat, add new bodies. Guys be like, man, nobody motivated. I said the best thing you could do is go hire 5 new guys, bring in some new blood, guys that get everybody riled up, worked up, because it's going to increase the performance of the team. Like you need guys that's dedicated to success and got big dreams, because some guys just here to get a check. They're not here to do nothing huge. So you need to get around top performance to raise that performance. But it's just so many things in this industry that I see aren't adapting.
There's another part to that, like if you had some friends that were really good high school athletes, right? And you go to the basketball court with them, you play with them, or you go play football on the weekend, or right? Like, man, that person's really good. But then you get the chance to play with a high level college player, Division I player, or you get to play with a real professional, right? Like you get to. If you're man, my cousin's a good tennis player, right? But then you go and actually get a game with a professional tennis player, it is completely different. Like it's not the same, but you may feel like, man, I got this great high school player on my team. They're good, but they're only good compared to who they're around, right? When that pro shows up, they don't look as good anymore. Have you seen that in companies where like somebody rises to the top and they're really committed to it, to their craft, and they're mastering their craft, and they're going, and all of a sudden they create a gap. Have you seen that happen?
I've actually seen it pretty consistently, but the way I've seen it isn't in the same company. Actually, it's I'll go to a company, they got a top performer, and I'm like, okay, this dude pretty good. You know what I mean? Like he's doing like, let's say 1.3, 1.5 a year.
Yeah.
And then I'll go to another company and I'll see another guy, and this guy doing like 2.5, 3 million. And I'm like, okay, no, this guy like a pro. Like this guy's like legit. Okay. And I'm like, the other guy was only good due to his environment. He's just the best in his company. He get the most leads, he get the most opportunities. But I'm like, this guy, he has a system. Like
I'm going to insult people, Dashaun. I'm going to insult some people right now. Your $1 million producers are good high school athletes.
Hey, it's the truth, dog. It's the truth. Especially depending on the market you're in.
Now you're $2 million, $3 million producer, man. Maybe they're playing Division I college.
Mm-hmm. No, seriously, because people thought it was undoable.
But then there are those out there that are hitting 4, 5, 8 plus. I've seen it. You've seen it.
Yeah.
And you go, what? Wait a second. You did what last year?
No, seriously. And
that's a professional.
It blows my mind because so at RoofCon, like my talk was on going from amateur to pro, right? And every company that I meet, I say, people love to tell me that my industry is oversaturated. And I say, yeah, with a bunch of amateurs. Like you're not competing against no high level salespeople, dog. You competing a bunch. I always tell cats, this your competition. The guy that got took out for 2 days and they told him he got it. Those are the people you're competing against. So what I've seen, like you said, your $1 million producers, you like high school athletes. Why? Because one of the principles of going from amateur to pro is the amateur is his feelings determine his decision making. So he do things based off how he feels. Right? If I feel good, I knock. If I don't feel good, I go home. If I feel like doing paperwork, I will. If I feel like doing follow-up calls, I will. Right? If I don't feel like it, I don't. Right? Oh, today I didn't feel like performing at a high level. Right? Or today I didn't feel like making that drive. Like whatever it may be. And I've noticed those $4, $5, $6 million producers, they do it even when they don't feel like it. Even when it's 9 o'clock and they like, I really don't want to go to this appointment. They like, I need to take care of my homeowner. Right? It's in the house when they got to ask that one more uncomfortable close and it don't feel good, they still do it. Right? I learned the pros are principle driven. Right? They follow the laws and the principles of this universe that governs their behaviors, or they create their own principles that govern their behavior either way. So I believe 4 things run our universe, right? Systems, formulas, principles, and feelings. Right? As I've been reading all these books over the last 9 years, I'm like, man, what's the biggest difference that I've been seeing as I continue to like partake on this information? I'm like, oh, you got people who principle driven, greatest salesman in the world, right? 10 principles that the greatest salesperson live by. I will live every day like it's my last day, right? I will become a master of my emotions. Those are principles, right? And then you got systems. Like I've noticed all of the top companies that I've studied got phenomenal systems, right? Whether it's personally or as an organization, right? They got great systems. Then I've noticed high performers use formulas to get to success, right? They got certain formulas that they use. Like it's a formula to build confidence. People just think like, oh, I'm just a confident person. No. It's a formula that you can follow that will increase your confidence, right? It's E plus R equals O. That's a formula. Event plus response equals outcome, right? So it's like all of these formulas that you can follow that leads to success. And then you got feelings, systems, formulas, principles, and then you got feelings. So as I've been studying over these last 7 years, I'm like, oh, these are the 4 things that really govern our universe. And if you abide by 3 of them, which is systems, formulas, and principles, you'll have a lot of success. But most people operate in that 4th one, which is feelings. So those pros, man, I've noticed that they operate out of those 3 quadrants. Right. And I need to coin this, Jim, because I've yet to see this yet. I want to be very clear. I haven't seen nobody teach these 4 things that I picked up on. But most successful people operate out of those 3 quadrants. And the roller coaster salesperson operate out that feeling quadrant. Right. So the pros, man, they out there just doing it based off principle. Right. Systems, formulas. That amateur. I done seen sales guys literally say, oh, I'm at my million. I'm going to chill out. And I'm like, I've never seen a pro say, I got 30 points. I'm going to chill out the rest of the game. You know what I mean? I'm trying to drop 40 on your head.
We still got a quarter to go.
Still got a quarter, and it just started.
Right? We still got we still have half the game.
I seen Jacob Fuchs, man. Love that guy. Tornado hit Georgia. He's the epitome of a pro. I want to give him a shout out. This guy booked a hotel down there in wherever the storm hit at, stayed away from his family for like 5 to 6 days. Just to go out there and take care of homeowners. I'm like, that's a pro mindset. Tom Brady used to move out of his house during football season so he can get locked in. I'm like, that's a pro. The amateur, like, well, I need to get home early to my wife. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't prioritize your family, but I am saying when it's football season, the pro is locked in, baby. Right? So, yeah, you're right. That $1 million producer it's like you're a good high school player, man.
Yeah, you're a good player. Like you're an athlete. Yeah. We could call you an athlete.
You're a contributor.
Like you have developed a good skill set, right? Like, not to take anything away from you, but there are levels.
It's levels.
There are other levels to this.
Meek Mill said it
So,
best.
systems, principles, formulas, feelings last. We talked about earlier, kind of to frame this a little bit. It all begins with mindset.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, like, if you think of great athletes, even before they're the greatest, believe they're the greatest.
Yeah, Muhammad Ali did
it. They have like it at times early in their careers feels delusional, but they have such a clear vision and such a determinative mindset that they see something that others don't. And I think that leads to a little bit in people who are very competitive, that leads to people a little chip on your shoulder. That leads to the reason to go to the gym an extra hour. That leads to studying a specific roofing sales system and taking some ideas out of it. That gets to reading the next book, or listening to an audio book while you're going from appointment to appointment, versus the radio, versus music, right? Like, what are those? I think that slight little bit of delusion that you will be the greatest, that mindset shift. How can you go from an amateur to a pro mindset?
Amen, right? So Joe Paterno said it best. You have to perform at a consistently higher level than others. That's the mark of a true professional. Being a professional has nothing to do with getting paid for your services, right? You have to perform at a consistently higher level than others. That's the mark of a true professional. Being a professional has nothing to do with getting paid for your services. And that's what really shifted my mindset. I'm like, oh, just because I dress nice and I collect a check and I answer my phone when people call me, that don't make me a professional. What makes me a professional is I consistently outperform the competition, right? No matter who it is, I'm going to murder you, right? I'm going to make sure that you starve. So, like you said, one thing that the pros do is they claim their greatness before other people acknowledge it, right? So everybody call themselves the GOAT. I call myself the boat, right? I got a tattoo that say the boat, and they say, "What's the boat?" I'm like, "I'm the best of all time," right? I don't want to be. I'm just claiming it, right? Whether before anybody else believe it or not. But one of the shifts where you go from this amateur to the pro mindset is the amateur listens to himself. The pro talks to himself, right? So the amateur,
Say that again.
The amateur spends more time listening to himself. The pro spend more time talking to himself, right? So the amateur believes the doubt. It believes the second guessing. It believes I'm not that good. Believes people don't want to buy from me. It believes those things, right? That's what the amateur do. That pro mindset shift is I'm going to speak myself into my success. I'm going to claim my greatness before anybody else claim it, right? I'm going to say I'm the greatest of all time, Muhammad Ali, right? You know, Michael Jordan, he would win a championship. He just won the third championship, and he in the picture with 4 fingers up. And they're like, "Why you got 4 fingers up?" He's like, "Because we focused on the next one," right? It's like you already focused on that next thing because you've already visualized yourself doing so many great things, but you also have to learn to talk yourself into your success, right? Spend more time talking to yourself. I'm the best at what I do. Everybody I talk to, they buy from me, right? Any neighborhood I go into, I dominate, right? Anytime I get on stage, I get a stand. Like, you talk yourself into those things versus listening to that doubt, listening to that little voice in your head that don't always play in your favor, no matter how positive you are, no matter how much work you do. Even me, man, I've been doing this for 7 years now, working on myself and studying and growing. And it's still that little voice in my head that's like, man, but if we put on an event, nobody might not come, right? Like, it happens. And I got to remind myself, like, no. You've had a packed crowd every time you've ever done an event, and they're not coming because of the event. They're coming because of you, right? So it's even me. I got to remind myself, like, no, bro. We got to talk ourselves into our greatness. But I've learned the pros, they start talking to themselves versus the amateur. They spend more time listening to themselves, right? But the first thing you got to do to shift from that amateur mindset to a pro mindset is you got to make a decision to go pro, right? You got to make a decision. You got to say, okay, I'm giving up all of my amateur desires. I'm doing an inventory check, right? How often do I allow my feelings to make decisions for me? Okay, pretty often. Okay, from this day moving forward, I'm getting up off of that. So like year 2 or 3 in the game, I read Relentless, changed my mindset, right? Changed my whole mindset. And I used to tell myself every day I was on the doors, I would say, if the average person will do it, I won't. If the average person gonna skip that door, I won't. If the average person gonna go home at 6 o'clock, I'm staying until 7:30. If the average person will knock that $1 million house, I will. Right. If the average person gonna stop at 3, I'm gonna go to 5. Right. When it comes to handling objections. So first thing first, you got to become aware of what the amateurs do. Once you become aware of what the amateurs do, now you can eliminate the behavior. So I did my talk at RoofCon, and then I did it for a few of my coaching groups. I done got emails from guys that said, "Wow, bro, I didn't realize how much of an amateur mindset that I actually had." So the first thing is awareness, right? Realizing
Mm,
that, okay, you might have some amateur traits that you need to get rid of, but first you got to do the inventory to see when are you operating out of your feelings, right? Another thing I always tell them, the pros show up no matter what. The pros show up no matter what, bro. Like you just told me, you got over sickness, bro. You here. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? Like things gonna happen in your life. You still gotta show up. Athletes, their parents die. You still gotta show up. The homie that played for the San Francisco 49ers, bro, got shot. He showed up. Brian Robinson Jr. played for the Washington Redskins. He got shot. He a top rusher this year, one of the top 10, I think. But it's like you got to continue to show up, even in this roof and sales things. You just can't make excuses because something happened in your life that you're not going to show up and do your job. But
Yeah.
you expect these pros on your fantasy football team to show up and play every week, and you be pissed off when they don't play because you're like, man, it ain't that big of a deal, man. You can go play. And I tell guys all the time, well, you mad that he didn't show up for that game. How many times you didn't show up for the games in your life? Right? How many times you didn't show up for yourself? But you expecting a grown man that you don't know to so the pros show up no matter what, right? Another one before we move on is the amateur believes he must have everything right before he take action.
Mm,
The pros, they prepared to just take a few steps and keep learning as they go, right? The pros prepared to play injured, right? The healthiest day you're gonna be is at the beginning of training camp. So I tell cats, the healthiest day you're gonna be is January 1st, dog. January 1st, the healthiest day you're gonna have when you take off on your roofing career, like to start that new year. January 1st, the healthiest day. Everything after that, bro, you're gonna get battered, you're gonna get bruised, you're gonna have life coming. But you still gotta show up and play hurt, man. Like you just can't take days off. So you still gotta do a little bit of work, learn as you go. You don't gotta have everything figured out before you take that next step. But like you always say, what's that next best thing, right? Like the next best, I love it when you say that. What's the next best
mhm.
thing, right? So you got to be prepared to pay hurt. You got to be prepared to take risks. You got to be prepared to show up no matter what. And most importantly, you got to learn to talk yourself into your success versus listening to your doubt and listening to your second guessing. And that's something I've noticed from all the pros is, and they also don't take themselves too serious, right? Like they understand winning is a part of the game, losing is a part of the game, but you just take your wins and losses with a smile on your face, and then we on to the next one, right? We on to the next one. So this mindset, I've been obsessing about it for the last 2 3 years, man, and I've just made a decision like I'm gonna be a pro at whatever I do, and I want to be the best of the best. And I've learned the pros get paid different, bro.
That's right.
More than anything, the pros get paid different.
Yeah. And I think this is not just for the sales reps, but from an owner's perspective
Mm-hmm.
too. It's the same
You
thing.
got
It's
amateur
just
teams and you
built.
got pro teams.
It, but it's a different skill set that you're building, right? Like you may not be refining your sales skill set. You may be refining your recruiting skill set. You may be refining your management skill set. You may be refining other skill sets. And I think that that's kind of the next level of it. Once you have the mindset, now you need the skill set to match it. The way that I always frame it, have framed it for years for my own personal self, is I want to keep my knowledge level above my income level.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what I look at. Let's put a chart together, right? Like I want I want I want to know when I have a conversation with someone, they're like, my goodness, how do you know all of this stuff? And you can look at my bank account and it may not reflect my knowledge level. I don't want my bank account to reflect my knowledge level.
I like that. That's good.
Right? Like I want my knowledge level to be the next level of income that comes my way. And I believe from a mindset perspective is it's the I was told this young, right? Like do the job that you want, not the job that you have.
Yep.
Right? So you contribute, if you contribute to an organization on a higher level, you're going to get pulled up, right? Like you're going to be noticed. And so that's how I've always looked at it, is keep my knowledge level above my income level. That's my mindset. But then now I need the skill set, right? So from a skill set perspective, how can a roofing owner, roofing salesperson level up their skill set from amateur to pro?
That's great, right? So the amateur relies on his talent, right? Talent. So everybody naturally, well, some people got better talents than others, but it's like you said, you got that high school athlete that was just talented, so he dominated his division. Then he got to college, and that talent leveled out, right? And that's the same thing with sales reps. It's like you could survive off talent for about 2 years in this industry. For about 2 years, you can survive off talent because you don't know enough that you don't know enough, but also your talent comes with a certain level of confidence. Confidence is just the memory of success, right? So you living in that talent, but the thing that separates you, that help you go from amateur to pro, is you go away from your talent. Now you start developing the skill sets, right? So now, once again, it all starts with awareness, right? Now you got to become aware of the skill sets that you aren't the best in. So when I say not the best, I don't mean like I'm not a detailed person. I don't need to go learn the skill set of being more detailed. So I want to clear that up because cats be like, oh, my weaknesses, I need to no. I mean the skill set of your communication, right? And what do I mean by communicating? Communicating is what somebody hear, not what you say, right? So how do I improve my communication to make sure that my messages come across clear and there's no gray area, right? How do I eliminate words out of my vocabulary so I'm concise, precise, directional, and destinational in my communication when I'm talking to homeowners, right? So now we develop that skill set, communication. Then we go to the skill set of people, right? Now I'm learning, reading, studying any book that allows me to learn how to deal with humans better, because that is a skill set to deal with humans. You know how many people I have conversations with that don't know how to share a conversation? Because that's a skill set. It's a skill set to meet somebody and to only say 5 to 10 words, and they've said 100. That's a skill set where you get in front of somebody and you get them to talk about themselves more than you talk about you, and they just on a high. And people ask me all the time, man, how you do that? I say, oh, it's a skill set, bro. I've learned how to get people to open up and get them to connect, right? Then you got the skill set of like closing, right? You got the skill set of, you got tied to, like, it's just so many aspects and so many levels to the skill set. So even as a leader, it's like, okay, I got a team, but am I a good leader? Right? So how do you become a better leader? You go learn from the best leaders in the world, right? One thing that our industry isn't too savvy on is they so fixated on learning from people in our industry. And I think that's one of the biggest crutches. And that's why people in our industry, I feel like, get bored, right? Because you learn from the same people. I'm like, no. Go outside of this industry. Go learn from the people that's the best in the world. I'm a certified mental performance coach. That's a skill set that I went and developed. So I can teach practical strategies and tactics on how to be mentally tough and control your thoughts and always be in control of yourself, right? That's a skill set that I went and learned. Why? Because I kept paying attention, Jim. I'm like, nobody in our industry teaches like the mental toughness. They just say you got to be mentally tough. But I'm like, what is mental toughness? So I went and paid a coach and I learned I developed the skills of mental toughness, right? So it's like, once you get the mindset of I'm about to become a pro, now you go put in the work to develop the skill sets that aligns with that pro mindset. Because you can't be a pro, right, mentally with amateur skill sets.
How do you determine what skill to work on next? So
for me personally, I look at it as like almost like a branch, like a tree. So it's like, it's me, the mind at the top, right? And then as a sales rep, I go through as a sales professional, right? Coach and trainer, don't matter. I go through and I look at what is every skill set required for me to do this job at the highest level. So even as a coach, I look at it, what's a skill set? I need to learn how to read salespeople, right? So I went and learned the DISC assessment. I paid for 20 weeks of coaching to learn how to actually sit down with somebody, communicate with them, be able to identify their personality type, shift my communication to give them information the way they prefer to receive it, so I can make sure it just don't fall on deaf ears, right? So I'm looking at it as like, okay, I spend more time talking to people, or let's say I'm as a sales rep and my closing has dropped. Like my closing ratio dropping. I'm doing a lot of inspections, but I'm not closing. So what skill set is I'm lacking? I'm lacking the skill set of influence and persuasion. So now I need to go study influence. I need to go study persuasion, and I might throw some negotiation in there because clearly I'm losing the negotiation at the kitchen table, right? So that's how I'm determining what skill sets I need to develop. So in the beginning, when I first started knocking doors, the skill set that I lacked was discipline. And a lot of people overlook discipline as a skill set. They think discipline is just like you just force yourself to do things. I'm like, no. I was lacking discipline. How do you create bulletproof discipline? Principles. And I didn't know that until I started studying. I thought you just wake up and do shit every day, and you just, no. I read The Greatest Salesman in the World. I'm like, oh shit, this dude got 10 principles that he abide by every single day.
Yeah.
That governs his behavior, which in returns creates a better discipline. So I went out there and learned principles and how can I stay more disciplined in doing certain things. So you got to figure out that area of your life that isn't that polished up, and then you go dive deep into that arena. Like you go dive deep, 2, 3, 4 books deep, 2, 3, 4 podcasts deep, right? Sitting down with people and fixating a month only on this skill set. He did continue to polish up. So like Kobe, when he was a rookie, it's towards the end of the game, he shot a mean air ball. And it's like, oh, Rook, you shot the air ball. Kobe said, well, yeah, because my legs was tired. It's like, it's just a part of the game. He spent that whole next year improving his stamina. He wasn't trying to, don't get me wrong, he's shooting and stuff. But the main thing was, can I make shots late in the game when I'm exhausted? That was the skill set he worked on, his stamina. And that's why Kobe's always was able to make those late in the game shots, because it happened to him his rookie year. He was like, that ain't gonna never happen to me again.
But that was an example of talent getting you so far.
Mm-hmm.
And then the realization that, there are levels to this. I also feel like, you have the mindset, you're building the skill set. To me, speed to execution is the other determining factor. I don't know if you feel the same way, but if you go and spend too much time learning and not implementing that into your day-to-day, you don't go anywhere. So, and I think that a lot of people get caught up in it. No, I have to know all of this before I do the next thing. I have seen time and time again with entrepreneurs and salespeople that it's speed to execution. And then the lessons that get learned from that execution and the reiteration of going back to all right, I need a new skill set. I'm missing this. I see the gap here. That speed to execution. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree with you 1,000%, because one of the traits of the pros is they listen, they learn, and then they implement. Listen, learn, and implement. They don't listen and learn. They listen, learn, and then they implement, right? So the sooner you learn something new, once you learn something new, the sooner you go implement it, the faster you can master it. Because the purpose of learning anything is mastery, right? What is mastery? The effortless execution to results. That's all the mastery is. I execute effortlessly. Like most of us have become masters of tying our shoes, right? That's why nobody thinks about tying their shoe. So once you've mastered this skill set, now you've stored it into the subconscious or into your conscious brain, right? And now your brain uses no mental energy to execute this task. So as soon as you learn something, go apply it. Go mess up. Go look stupid. Go look incompetent. Use that closing phase. Use that closing term. Or use that transitional phase. Use that tie down question, and allow it to not work a few times, right? But what's most importantly, you're implementing it so you can polish up this skill set. So I had a homie, once I started reading, so it had to be 2017 and beyond. And it's probably one of the best compliments I've ever gotten in my life. He said, Dashaun, I've never met somebody who implement things as fast as they learn them as you do. He's like, I've read as many books as you have, but man, the way you read something, learn it, and then go do it is crazy. And I'm like, well, what's the purpose of reading? Like, why I read the book? To say I read the book? I read the book to implement the things that I learned, right? So once you learn it, go condense the window that you go apply it. So that's why when I train, I like to teach practical stuff. I don't like to teach in theory. I like to teach very practical. That way you can go apply it that day, get some results. Now you love this new action you've added to your game. Now you double down the action. Now we get new results, right? Now we're going to keep compounding on top of those things. So I'm a firm believer the same thing, man. As soon as you learn something, you got to go implement it immediately. Don't sit on knowledge, right? Because knowledge is ignorance is the absence of truth, right? Knowledge is accumulation of the truth. Understanding is I think it's understanding is comprehension of the truth, or comprehension is understanding of the truth. And then wisdom is application of the truth, right? So as soon as you learn something, you go apply it. Now it becomes wisdom. And it's no longer just knowledge, which is knowledge, okay, accumulation. You got some knowledge, you've accumulated some truth, right? Now you got some comprehension, you understand that truth. But then if it stops there, nothing comes from it. You got to go apply the knowledge to get the wisdom. Now, once you're operating out of wisdom, that's when you become the GOAT. Because that's what everybody loves to say, man, he's so wise. But you're not wise from knowledge. You're wise from action, right? You're wise from implementation. So the sooner you learn it, the sooner you apply it, implement it, now you become wise. That's when these grades started coming in, man. But I agree with you.
I got plenty.
You got to go apply it immediately. Don't sit on it.
Yeah, that's the big thing. So, all right, let's give them a summary. How do you go from amateur to pro?
Amen. So to summarize this thing, right? First thing first, you shift your mindset. So inventory, awareness. Do I have amateur traits? Yes. Okay, I want to go pro. Boom. That's first thing first. Make a decision, right? So you made a decision to go pro. Once you make a decision to go pro, we do an inventory on our skill sets. What skill sets do I possess that I need to improve, polish up, and enhance to operate at the highest level of a pro, right? Now, once you figure out the skill sets that you want to develop, you go learn those skill sets. The next step is you go implement it or execute on these skill sets immediately. So it's mindset, skill set, execution. And I always tell people, effort is praised, execution is worship, right? Effort is praised, execution is worship. So I tell people all the time, you're a grown man, dog. You don't get credit for trying in my book. I don't care about what you tried. Did you do it or you didn't, right? Did you execute on it? So mindset, skill set, execution. I feel like those are the practical steps to go from an amateur to a pro.
Awesome. If anybody wants to, get more of this, reach out to Dashaun. He does coaching for teams and for companies. Or join us in the Roofing and Solar Reform Alliance, and you just get us on an ongoing basis.
Come get this knowledge consistently, right? This energy, and we teach exclusive stuff in my academy, the Best Hustler Academy, in the RSRA form that we don't give to the public. So that's kind of exciting. Can I give them one more thing before we get ready to wrap up out of here?
Yeah, man, do it.
One of the coolest things that the pros get to enjoy is they get a double salary, right? And what do I mean by that? You get the salary of, monetary salary. You get the compensation. You're killing the game. You're making $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 like you're getting paid. So that's the first salary that you get. And the second one, you get to enjoy the mental salary. What is that? It's equivalent to the Marine that's down in the bunkers and bombs going over their head. And, they had to, putting a new clip in, and they lived in the trenches and they experienced something that nobody else get the experience but him and his brothers. And they get that second mental tax of knowing we the only people out here willing to put in this work, and nobody else don't experience the same experience that we experiencing. So you get the salary of knowing that I put in work and I do things that other people not willing to do, and only another pro can understand this feeling that I'm feeling. Right. So that's another thing the pros get to enjoy. They get to enjoy those two salaries, the monetary salary, which is you make money. And then the second one is you get to enjoy the mental salary of knowing that most people not willing or committed or determined to put in the work that you put in to get to where you at.
That's awesome, man. This has been another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast.
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning into the Roofing Success Podcast. For more valuable content, visit roofingsuccesspodcast.com. While there, check out our sponsors for exclusive offers, shop for merchandise, and sign up for our newsletter for industry updates and tips. Also, join the Roofing Success Facebook group to connect with other professionals and stay updated on the latest trends. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, like, share, and leave a comment. Your support helps us continue to bring you top industry insights. The website link is in the description. Thanks for listening.